So this has the potential to be either the most awkward conversation or the most entertaining conversation, right? So when I write about something that someone says that kind of sticks with me, which I feel like is fairly often, I usually run it by them and say, hey, I'm saying this, and even though I'm not saying your name, I want to, use this, can I? But every now and then, okay, scratch that. Actually, rarely do I feel like I should ask someone to have that conversation recorded. So Lauren is a friend of mine who is, I've been actually making fun of her as we were preparing to record. I was talking about how trendy she is and all the things behind her. And she is super trendy and she doesn't even realize it. But she's also super willing to be vulnerable and have a conversation about things that I think most all of us struggle with. And we have the best conversations on the phone. Now, I don't know if that's going to translate to this recording, but we're going to give it a shot. A super short phone conversation. Welcome to our world that is Jenn and Lauren. And I'm going to start with this, Lauren. How do you feel that I've told you, yes, you are the common denominator in all of your difficult situations?
I mean, I'm honestly, I'm prepared to defend myself on a lot of levels when it comes to that statement, because it's like, well, hold on here. Um, you know, like I think about the work situation that, or just basic any kind of like social situation, because that's typically where I find my troubles here. But I get that I can be a common denominator in a lot of these issues, because especially if issues keep popping up, and then I find myself in every single one of them. I get that I can be the common denominator, but I guess my question is, especially like if it's like a toxic or an unhealthy work situation, or something that maybe is not in my control, and it still remains bad. Even if I'm the common denominator, even if I find these problems, is it because I'm finding the problem that makes me the common denominator, or is it because I am the problem that makes me the common denominator? And when
Yeah.
is it a good idea to move forward from that, to change my situation, or is it worth sticking with? So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I think I love that. I mean, it's funny because I actually had a conversation with someone today on the phone, and they're having a very similar situation in terms of work for them, and they were kind of asking the same question. And I think that in these moments, I know you and I have talked about that, but we have to do a lot of sorting and sifting, right? Like we have to like take the situation. I talk so much with my hands. I realize that in these videos. And we really have to start to kind of separate it, because yes, you are noticing the toxic things, or maybe not the toxic things, like the difficult things or the well, I mean, I even and you know this because we've done projects and stuff together, like I tend to see the negative side, right? Like I can be really critical. Well, that adds something to a team, but that also makes some people very tired on a team. And so I'm good because I'm going to see where I think things weren't done right. Now granted, that's my version of right, but I'm going to see it, and it's going to be very difficult for me not to point it out or say something. I mean, it's almost like I have like this physical reaction. I wear it on my face. You do too. Like in our friendship, you wear your thoughts on your face. So like, I think that you are going to notice it because you're made to notice those things. But I think when we can take it and go, all right, let's separate it all out. Like, is it possible that sometimes you're in a season of work that's just a paycheck? Like, is it possible that, it doesn't have to be work. I definitely wouldn't say like a relationship should look like this, but is it possible that for certain seasons of life, it just is what it is, and you need to figure out how to endure what it is? Or does everything have to have like this cohesiveness and always be okay? Do you feel like it's always got to be okay, or could work just be a paycheck sometimes?
I mean, it could, and I work is probably the easiest example, just because work is the thing that you do for 8 hours
Yeah.
or more a day. Um, so I mean, I guess I can use that example on a very vague level, but it can be the only thing that I struggle with, and I think I'm starting to not struggle with it as much, but I'm only saying that because I'm in a position right now where I'm doing something that I feel like I have purpose in.
Mhm.
Um, but the only problem with it just being a paycheck is that it's so hard to not tie it to your purpose.
Yeah.
It's also so hard to take a job that might just be a paycheck when you know that you're capable of more, um that you're capable of more, and
Yeah.
that I don't know, and that I'm not exercising my entire mind or my skill set. And so that's a struggle for me because, if I'm in a situation where I need to change a job, or if I feel like I need to change a job, and this is where I feel like where the common denominator thing is an issue. It's like, is it me? Do I keep job hopping, or do I keep changing my situation because it's me, or you know, or is it another factor, that something outside of my control? But like if I do that, I'm just going to go to something that's, like some menial job um that might not that might not sh- show, or I don't know, execute my purpose, or you know what I'm trying to say? Like I might not utilize my skill set and my purpose, and that's when I struggle, with
Yeah.
it just being a paycheck.
But I
And
do
I
think that what you're
understand
talking
that that can
about.
be,
Go ahead.
but it sucks. It sucks to like,
Yeah.
because you feel like you're taking, when you do that, you feel like you take steps back, you know, because like you want your career trajectory, you want your entire like life's trajectory. It's so hard to say, trajectory. It is, you want that entire like trajectory to
It's like
go up.
those boards with all the veggies and the meat and the stuff and I call it charcuterie.
Mm. Charcuterie, barbecuery,
Keep trying.
charcuterie.
Someone will correct us, I'm sure. Go ahead.
But but like, so the way, and maybe I'm just looking at this in too linear of a way. Like you want to see like your trajectory going this way. So like that includes like responsibilities, that includes pay, that includes leadership roles. And so when I feel like that's not what's happening,
Yeah.
and I feel like I'm taking steps back, that's when it's just like I feel like I'm a loser. I just feel like a loser.
I love that, like, because when you were talking about that space, you were using your hands, like you're like that's that tension, and I think that that actually is such a great word that we don't really pay attention enough to, because I think that tension is exactly what you're experiencing, and we're just like, am I job hopping? And I think we have to bring clarity to the pattern. Like, I mean, I've known you a long time, and I know you're not job hopping. I mean, I know people that have job hopped. You don't job hop. It feels like you do, and it doesn't mean that you now. I mean, we also discussed that you and I experience the same frustrations in different environments too. So that is that common denominator element. But I think you got to step back and go, okay, do I actually job hop, or when I take, you know, I remember telling someone that I felt like I needed to do something, work in a position forever for it to be, or I was irresponsible, right? Like I needed to have the same job for 40 years, or I was somehow irresponsible. And I don't think, one, I don't think our culture is even set up like that much anymore. But two, like it's one thing if you're switching jobs every 1-2 years. I think it's a different dynamic when you're talking like, hey, every 4, 5, 6 years, things kind of change. But I still think even if you can figure out that cycle and even talk yourself into it, okay, well, I'm not job hopping, you're still going to have that tension. But I think that the thing you were also saying was like, because you were doing like this little like hand motion, like that you felt like the trajectory needed to go like this. Otherwise, you're going backwards, right? Like it has to all mesh, like my purpose, all the sun, moon, and stars kind of need to align in order for me to be fully engaged in my purpose, which then the result of that is being fully engaged in my work, which I think should be a goal. Like we shouldn't be checked out at work. We should want to bring our best selves and bring the way that we're made to the team. But I think when we wrap too much around that stuff, like when I always think of, I'm sure you've heard me say this before, like we look through time linear, like we look like we're looking through a straw, and we look forward or backwards. Those are the only directions we can look, but God kind of stands outside the straw. And when I think of purpose, there's that big P, purpose with a capital P, which is that's that journey outside the straw. That's that relationship. And then there's tiny, there's tiny little P's all over, all over that linear line. No, that doesn't really work, right? All over that linear line that I think um, we get too enmeshed in. So it's kind of like trying to walk both journeys at the same time. Like, yes, I'm a part of this team and this system, and I want to have my career connected to my purpose. I think that's very valuable. But I also still stand outside all of that, and need to figure out what I'm learning over here that feeds or releases this. Because sometimes I'm just in a season when I might just be showing up for a paycheck. Not that I want to, like, that's the struggle, is I don't ever want to be like, oh, go commit, 8 hours of your day, 40 plus hours of your week to being miserable. I don't think that's at all what anybody would want to do. But I do think we enmesh stuff too much and can't see ourselves outside of even that context. I think.
I know I've been told multiple times, probably by you and also by others, that your purpose does not necessarily need to be wrapped up in your work, but it is so hard to get outside of that when that is what you do all day, every day, and that's what you
Yeah.
put your focus and your effort and your concentration into, and that's just, I don't know, it's hard, and I don't know, and who's to say that, like, if I move into a new position from what I'm doing now, which I'm doing very meaningful work now, but who's to say that that's not going to have purpose and that isn't part of that trajectory? But I don't know, it's a struggle, because it's like you also have those whole, like, I mean, you don't want your resume to be like 5 pages long,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
with like 5 million different jobs. Like, that never looks good. And you don't want to, when you fill out, like, if you ever fill out job applications, because, like, oftentimes, depending on where it is, like, most of the times, a lot of professional places will take a resume and a cover letter, but some of them also make you do like a standard application, and so you have to put your work history. It's like, oh my god, I have to list all of that, and I don't want to be one of those people that lists all of those, all of those. But then on the other hand, like, I understand that a lot of people, they do the 5-year thing. They look for something new. They look for growth in themselves, and in places where that they can help grow, that company or that business or that thing. So I don't know. I'm just torn. I'm torn.
But I think that when you just said, there are people that do look for something new and do the 5-year thing. I think the question to really sit with God about is, so why? So and this isn't you, but say you're a person who's always got to do the new thing, right? And I get that. But what's the why behind it? And when that why is not prompted from a place of security and peace and a place of empowerment versus a place of like chasing and a place of searching and trying to fill a void, and I know that's not necessarily your dynamic, but like even with your dynamic and the person that I talked to earlier on the phone, like, why am I frustrated? Like, sitting with the why, like, what do I need to learn right now? My advice for that person earlier today was, you need to figure out if it's possible for you to get to a place where you show up with your full self and your full gifts. And even if it's not received at all, you can still close the computer, shut down the task list or whatever, and not have bitterness. Like, and can you give your whole self open-handed, and not end up in a position of being bitter and angry and judgy because people aren't taking your gifts and talents and skills and things or advice or opinions, and doing what you would want them to do with it. And I think when you find yourself on like this cycle of bitterness and frustration, sitting with why, is it because there's something really wrong here and I need to have a difficult conversation, an honest conversation, or is it because there's something I just need to let go of and get over? And It's probably, and it could be like a variation of all those things, right? I don't think there's like a one size fits all with these dynamics, but I do think whatever the common denominator emotion or feeling is, sitting with why it's there and why you feel like I've got to do something. I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this discomfort. Why and what that is could prove valuable if you can get some clarity on that, I think.